and his path of where he's at, and just kind of the people he's talked to, and yeah, so where he's gotten to today. So Colby, if you want to take it away, that'd be awesome. And at the end, we'll kind of open it up to a Q&A if you guys have questions.
Perfect. And Adam, will I have the option of sharing my screen as some stuff that I wanted to share during the presentation? Is that
you should, yes. Yep.
All right, perfect. We're good. All right, thanks. So I was thinking about how I wanted to start this conversation in this talk. Recently, several weeks ago, as I was doing research for even myself for sports, I started reading several Reddit posts. I wasn't reading the posts about the GameStop and all that stuff that's going on, even though that's probably interesting. I was actually reading the posts about sports management and kind of what's going on there. And every single post, the thing that I noticed when I read these Reddit posts, two things that came up. People would say, it really matters your network in sports. This is an industry of connections. It matters if you get an internship and kind of where you go from there. Those were the common things that you probably already are aware of. Like you already know you need to network. You already know that you need to actually get an internship. But the question I would ask is why networking is so popular, or why networking is such an importance when it comes to sports. When you look in sports, outside of the sports industry, and I've been a part of several other industries, I've never seen an industry where everyone that I speak with, they always say you have to network. I got my job through networking. That's all you hear constantly. When you think about the industry itself, some data that I looked at, the sports industry, spectator sports industry, is about 153,000, like market size. So it's very niche. Give you an example of the size of the sport. So I'm asked for some participation. If you're open, I see we're relaxed there at home. So just give me thumbs up, thumbs down. Denver Broncos. Pretty sure that you heard of them, so I don't need to ask that question. If you think that's a huge organization, give me a thumbs up. If not, give me a thumbs down. Correct. Everyone thinks that's a huge organization. There's only 300 people that work with the Denver Broncos. It's like a family-run organization, very small, very niche. So why do I give you that example? Just show you the size of the market. Is even though we see it and it looks huge, when you start getting behind some of the layers, you can see how unique and how small it is. Everyone knows everybody. And that's why everyone I talk to, they always say, I got my job because of this relationship or because of that relationship. So how do we get past that? This is the good news. How do we get past that? I'm gonna give you some principles, then I'm gonna give you some tactical stuff. It all stems about networking. You have to network. I'm pretty sure that's nothing new. If that's new, raise your hand. You have to, right? Not a new concept, right? We all know that. So here's the question that I want you to do. You have access to the chat. I want you to type into the chat what you think about networking. How does that make you feel? Scared, excited, don't want to do it, don't know how to do it. And the reason why I asked this question, I've had several other college students reach out to me. One of the questions that I get often is they say, Colby, how do I add value I'm 18 to 22 years old. How do I add value to someone that's an executive? We say we need to add value, but how do I add value? Excited. Here's some of the answers. It was scary. It's gotten easier. Yeah, that's what you hear often. That's personable. Wow, you're ahead of the curve, better than most people I've spoken with. What's been your best way to get in contact with people?
Things on like LinkedIn, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Social media platforms in general. Previous connections that you already had to meet different people. Okay.
So what I've learned through networking, you have to be consistent. Consistent action. You need to have a plan. The worst thing that you can do is network for a week and then stop. You need to have a plan to how you network. I think that's the best course of action. So if you learn how to network consistently and have a plan, I'll show you and I'll tell you kind of what's possible. So you mentioned LinkedIn. I kind of want to go to LinkedIn and show you specifically what I'm doing to actually get in contact with the people that I've actually had on my show and how you can do the same things. Nothing special. So let me go ahead and see if I can share. All right. Give me one moment. Share. All right. Are you able to see the screen? Give me a thumbs up if yes. All right, perfect. So this is LinkedIn. Of course, you know this is LinkedIn. From your perspective, if you wanted to connect with this gentleman here, how would you connect with him? If he wasn't in your contact list, if you didn't have a connection to him, how do you feel? What's a great way to connect to this gentleman here? Not in your contact list, you still want to connect with him. He think he might be able to help you. How do you connect with him?
You can send a personal message when you press the connect button.
Yeah, that's one. That's one way. And oh, here's another tip. How many have did that and had a lot of responses from LinkedIn? People responding back to you. Just give me a thumbs up if yes. Yeah, me personally, my best response is the tip I'm about to share with you is what I gotten the most. And this is how I connected with every single person. So this is what I get from, if you're, I used to work in sales, so they used to teach you how to go out and do business development. This is one thing I took from that industry. If you use Google Chrome, what I recommend as a browser, because the extensions on the browser are better. There's a tool you can get here. It's called Lead Leaper. So for instance, if I was to click on this, boom. That tool that you see right there, can you see that? It's free. You can get so many for a certain period of time. So what I do, and there's several, but what I do is I usually get their email address. And once I get their email address, I just simply email them. This is how I got in contact with every single person. Is that helpful? I need to know. Yes, no, tip?
Didn't know that.
Yeah. This is how I got in contact with every single person. So the beauty about this, look, pay attention to everyone's email. So you see his name, first letter of his first name, last name, at Nike.com, right? So what can you do? Now you know the domain structure of the name of Nike. So it's all this at Nike.com. There's some that might be a little different, but it's typically like that. So you can play around with it. So if you see an article about someone at Nike, that's really cool. If you're doing that, which is another great way to network, is do Google Alerts if you want to work for Nike. And therefore, if a great article comes up, you can see who wrote that article, who they're mentioning in that article, find that person on LinkedIn, and then reach out to them and say, hey, look, reference the article. I read this article that you were referencing in Forbes. I wanted to connect with you and ask you a question about X. That's how I start building conversations. I want you to walk away from this conversation and from this meeting to be able to generate more conversations. That's the overall goal. How can I generate more conversations? Because if you can generate more conversations, you're going to network more. Internships will not be a problem. If you need a mentor, will not be a problem, because you're going to get all that through the networking process. But it all starts here with just creating conversations.
Hey, Colby, I got a quick question for you.
Yes.
I've never heard of Lead Leaper. This is a really cool thing that you just showed everybody. And that was a great tip. He was talking about, once you see how their emails structured, just about anybody in Nike is going to have the same type of email. What is it, like first letter of first name and then last name at Nike? So that's a great tip. With the Lead Leaper, do you have to go to their LinkedIn page, to the person you're looking for? You go to the LinkedIn page and then you hit Lead Leaper? Is that how it works?
Correct. So let's do another one. It's a great question. Let's go back here. Let's try to pick someone else. Who else works at Nike? Renee here. See if it pulls hers. Right? She works, and it typically pulls from their latest job offer. So, okay, she doesn't work. Let's see where she works. Let's find another one. Here's one I know works. I just had this gentleman. This is a good buddy of mine here. Go here, click on that, and it just pulls. So his is this different. It's first name dot last name at Nike. So you could try both. So for instance, you get a bounce back. It's either one or the other. So you have the structure of that, right? So I'm gonna get into some more stuff and actually show you the email that I sent. So another thing that you want to be cognizant of before you start networking, and this is something that I see a lot of people, they don't do, is kind of what is your mission when you network? For instance, I'm a podcaster. So as I'm reaching out to people, one of the things that I'm actually doing is I'm reaching out to other podcasters. So the way I'm gonna try to get into the market, if you look at podcasters nowadays, a lot of sports people, what are they creating? All these different podcasts, all these different podcast networks. So the reason I'm creating a podcast is because one, it fits me as a person, but then it allows me to position myself to go to someone and say, look, I got this podcast, right? I can go to them with something, which is one thing that you need to do. How many of you right now have got some type of portfolio or some type of content that you've been working on that you could submit to someone right now or have someone take a look at? Like at Nike or Under Armour if you want to work there. Does anyone have that right now? Like a blog, website? I would highly suggest that you work on that. If nothing else, everyone that I've spoke to, they always recommend you start creating content on your own. Okay, I'm paused here. You want to know how to get a job. Someone told me this recently. You want to know how to get a job, how you can add value. All the major companies that I spoke with someone with the Trailblazers, and he mentioned, and I asked him, I was like, how can, I get this question a lot, how can 18 and 22-year-old kids, Gen Z, can they add value? He said the place where they can add value is social media. He was like, I don't know social media. I don't know TikTok. I don't know all this stuff. You have to understand too, kind of the marketplace and kind of what they're looking for so you can add that value. So a lot of social media, TikTok is what people are looking for now. They don't know how to do it. So if you, for instance, if you wanted to get a job, if you were reaching out to someone like the gentleman on the screen, what I would suggest, if you put together like a portfolio or even a white paper to share, and I need to slow down here. I feel like I'm going too fast. White papers, do we know what that is? I'm using more corporate terminology. A senior project, say that. That makes more sense. It's the same thing, essentially. You're just putting together something to deliver to somebody. If you were to do that, and you could submit it to a lot of the people in sports, that's all they're looking for. Literally, that's all they're looking for. They're just looking for you to show that you can do the work, and then you can get in. It's nothing special here. Let me show you the email. I'm gonna switch here. I'm gonna show you the email, the exact email that I sent as well to give me these responses. So I'm gonna go here. Let me know if you can see can you see the screen now? The word screen? Some says yes, some says no.
We're still on LinkedIn.
It's only, okay, give me one moment here. Do this. All right, perfect. All right, I want to see everyone. Sharing screen and trying to look at everyone at the same time is challenging. So this email, you can copy this down or it's going to recording, but this is the email that I send specifically to everyone that I speak with. And all I'm simply asking, I found you on LinkedIn, and I'm asking one question: are you open to being interviewed? You can change that around and ask many questions. For you, depending on what you're trying to do, you can ask, Adam, what are you trying to get into in sports? What part of sports?
Well, eventually I want to have my own business and like have a my own training facility for baseball, but I've always liked the idea of like starting and scouting.
Okay. Okay. I'll give you a contact before we leave. I know who you need to talk to specifically.
Cool. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Emily, what about you?
Eventually I want to go into the marketing field for the MLB.
Okay. Here's some more. Andrew, what about yourself?
marketing within any sport.
Okay, well, perfect. So Emily, Andrew, anyone else want to do marketing? Can I just get a show of hands? Okay, we got a lot of marketing, sort of, kind of. Nikki, what about yourself?
I want to go into ticket sales.
Ticket sales. Oh, got the perfect person. Let me show you. Okay, so you got me excited because everyone I know, everything you said, I know is specifically who you should reach out to, who you should contact. But this email address, this email here, does this make sense? Kind of what I'm asking. I'm not going too broad. I'm keeping it extremely simple. And I'm looking for a 1 or 2 line reply. I get if I send out 10 of these, depending on the time, I get about a 40% response rate to this email. It works every time. This is how I get all my interviews. Everyone that's been on my podcast has read this email. So we talked about LinkedIn. That's the front end piece. We talked about the email you want to send. Once you connect with them, say you connect with someone on LinkedIn, you have a relation, you have a conversation. What's the most important thing after that? You got to follow up. You got to build a relationship. It's meaningless if we do all this work on the front end and we don't follow up. So this is where a lot of people lose it, where they say, well, how can I add value? I'm 18, 19 years old. How can I add value? And the easiest way to add value, I'll give you a few ways. I'll give you a few things that I do. When I interview someone and when I speak to someone, I send them a handwritten note, a thank you card. Every single month, I understand what they're looking for in their industry. The one thing that I do is I send them a news article. This is what you can do easy. Send them an article. Like, hey, I did this week. I sent an article to a gentleman because I was reading his LinkedIn. He had said something specific. And I was like, well, this article should be great for you. And that's why I keep in contact with him, sending articles. That doesn't take anything. Just understand what they're trying to do. And you can just send an article. That's another way to follow up and stay in contact with the person. I do birthdays as well. I know the person's birthday. That's having a relationship. Like we're very friendly. Birthdays, what's going on in their life. The great thing about LinkedIn too, it tells you oftentimes when is their birthday, when is their work anniversary. One thing I will tell you is don't send the generic message LinkedIn has, because everyone's doing that. You want to stick out. So if you have their number, you can send them a video message. Like just take a video, depending on how close you are, and say happy birthday, or send them a little audio message on your iPhone so they can hear your voice. That's more personable than just doing that generic thing on LinkedIn. So the key on LinkedIn is you establish a relationship online, but you want to get it offline as quick as possible, because only offline is where you're going to start building relationships, never online. So think, okay, I meet them online. How can I get them offline? All right. I've been rambling on for about 20 minutes now. I want to pause here and take some questions before I continue on. I have a few more things I want to cover. Are there any questions right now I can cover?
Yeah, I got one. So how many emails are you sending to these people before, like, say they don't respond to the first one? Are you following back up and sending again? And how many are you sending before you move on?
Depends. For me, I only initially send the one email for this particular email here. Now, if it's someone I really want to connect with, I might continue sending, or I might try to find some other way to connect with them. But for here, I was getting such a high response for the people I wanted to interview. I'm honestly not following up with these specific people. Now, I'll tell you the people that I do follow up with, a lot of people, speaking of marketing, the VP of marketing for the Boston Celtics replied back to me and said, she wanted to come on, but she said she couldn't do it right now because it was the start of the NBA season. She said, follow up later. Those like that, of course I follow up with when they tell me they'll follow up later. But if they don't respond to me, I get so much more other names and people responding. I don't worry about it. So it really depends. If it's someone that you really need, like you really want to follow up, you might want to find a different way. Look on LinkedIn for a phone number, check other social media, Twitter, and try to find that way to actually get connected with. Does that answer your question, Andrew?
Yeah. Definitely. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions?
Well, I guess I had some. I was a little late to the meeting. I don't know how much you covered, but for your podcast, where do we find that? Is that on all platforms?
Apple and Google. I'm gonna put it on Spotify, but I'll drop the link in before.
Okay. And then where are you located right now?
This is Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. And do you do your meetings over or your podcast over like Zoom or
Yeah.
people?
Same way. Zoom. And that's what I would suggest for you. If you meet someone online, try to get them to a Zoom call.
Okay.
Because before I would say try to get them to, like, if they're local, try to get them to a coffee shop, of course. But Zoom call is the next best thing that you can get them to. And just start there. If they can't do a Zoom call, just do a phone call. But try to get that personal interaction as quick as possible.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so I want to share with you, let's go back to LinkedIn. Let me know, let's switch the screen again. And I want to share with you what's possible through networking. This is one of my, does anyone know him? I've heard of him. Brandon said yes. Brandon, have you spoke with him?
Just through email. We haven't actually spoke on the phone, but yeah, we've been in touch over email.
Yeah, you should definitely have him in to come speak.
Yeah, I need to. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be a great one. So what's possible through, and Adam, this is for you. You would love him in regards to, he wanted to play baseball too. He wanted to go to school and play baseball. So his story, sophomore year of college, he wanted to get a job in sports, but he was trying to understand, he didn't want to go through all this interview stuff. So he said, how can I start now while I'm in college? So when I graduate, I can already have a job. So what he started doing is informational interviews. Raise your hand if you do not know what an informational interview is. Perfect, we have one, so we explain. All an informational interview would be, very simple. Say for instance, you wanted to be a teacher. You would start interviewing teachers, look and just understand how's the schedule, how's your life, what do you do? How can I get better as a teacher? Do you know who's hiring? You're just finding out information. And so what he did, it's kind of similar to what I have going on my podcast, but what he did, he just started interviewing people in the sports profession, getting their story, understanding kind of what they wanted to do. His first year, he did 110 informational interviews. And he started sharing them on different social media platforms. This is in 2014, I think he told me. I spoke with him on the podcast at the end of last year. He has his company, he has 18 full-time employees. But it all started just doing informational interviews. He didn't want to start a company. That wasn't his goal. He wanted to get a job, but it spiraled into something else. That's the benefit of networking. You don't know what you're going to get once you put yourself out there and start doing certain things, but that's what you will get. That's the benefit of networking. Questions?
So what's front office sports? Just like a little rundown of that.
Front Office Sports. Front Office Sports is a sports media company. Frontofficesports.com. You should definitely check him out. He does a great job of letting you know what's going on in the sports industry. So one of the things that you want to get great about is when you go in for an interview, understand what's going on in the industry. All right, speak industry terminology. And you can sign up for his newsletters and you can get all that information in one spot. And he talks about what's going on in the industry trends. I probably should be promoting my stuff right now, but this gentleman is so great that he's anyway. But it's really good for you just to be up to date as far as what's going on. And this is a great place to start. I'm subscribed to his stuff. Really, really good gentleman. 25 years old right now. Really good gentleman.
And to Colby's point, like they send out a newsletter, as he was talking about, every morning. It's honestly a 5-minute read, and it kind of gets you up to date with especially on the sports business side, what's going on.
Favorite all-time interview?
I asked that question to myself in case you asked that. All time. so far. For myself, it was the gentleman I interviewed for, I don't want to say they've all been great, but the one I felt most natural was the gentleman I interviewed for the Cleveland Browns. He was in ticket sales. He was just, I mean, his willingness to help and give information and really share was just there. And we just connected. So, and that's another thing, we connected in the interview, so it came out great when we did it. So that was so far the best one I did. The most interesting one, I give you this, the most interesting one, an interesting perspective on sports that I did was literally a week ago when I interviewed a gentleman, and his whole job is to write about sneakers for ESPN.
I just listened to that one.
Yeah, he got it. Great story. He got his start comparing the sneaker industry, and I've seen him on ESPN for a while, but he just got great at understanding the sneaker industry. And one thing that he told me, and I hope you took from this, Adam, is the fact that he started putting out content by himself. No one told him to, and then they reached out to him about jobs, different companies. So on your Twitter, on your LinkedIn, all these platforms that you're on, you can create your own content. Create your own content, but then invite all these big time people like the marketing people to your LinkedIn. Then they see your stuff. Then they're aware of you. So therefore, you can kind of bypass some of that interview stuff since they already see a snapshot of what you can do. I want to show you this really quickly here. Let's see if I can pull it up. Boston Celtics, who did I talk to? Those that want to be in marketing. Those that want to be in marketing, where's she at? Oh, here's another thing too. I just typed in Boston Celtics. Every sports company has like a team page to make it easier, and literally just go and click on people and it'll show you everyone in the organization. So it makes it easy just to connect with people, and you see all the job titles. So if I go here, let me remove this. Right here, marketing. So if I clicked on her, see, there's her email right there. She's in marketing. So you know what I would do? Those that want to be in marketing, sports marketing, I would connect with her. And before you connect with her, have a reason and purpose to. So I have a question. Maybe you have something that you've done before as a senior project you want to get their advice on. Always have like a reason to connect. Don't just say, hey, I need a job. Just have a reason to connect with people. When I connect with them, it's always to talk about the podcast and then move the relationship along. So I would say have something that you can connect with them. You want to connect with them for versus just connecting. It'll help the conversation flow better. So those that want to be in marketing here, ticket sales, what's his name? This is my guy. And I'm bringing another young lady on the end of next week. Roger, he always responds. So Nikki, if you want to reach out to him, he's always willing to help younger people. So Roger Jones is another person that you can reach out to.
Is that lead leaper only on Chrome?
I believe so. I only use Chrome, so that's all I use. So you can respond to him and just kind of get whatever you're trying to look for, every information you're trying to get. He's a great one to connect with. What other positions? Let me go back here. What other job titles, everything that you wanted to? Did we cover everything, or did someone else want something else? And Adam, for you, Adam's. I think his email is he actually puts his email on his page, I believe. Yeah, right here. just reach out to him. Have a purpose to reach out to him. I think that'd be helpful. Start a conversation. Learn a little about his story. Just Google him. You'll see more stories. He's on other podcasts, and I would definitely reach out to him. If you want to run a business, he can give you ideas as far as running business. More so that conversation. Perfect. I know we're at 3:31. I know this is 30 to 40 minutes. I'm gonna pause here and start taking more questions. If there's any more questions or anything else I need to clear up.
So what's your end goal? Where do you want to be? Do you want to do podcasts for the rest of your life, or do you want to take these relationships that you built and kind of move it into a different industry, or still in sports, but take it a little farther?
Great question. I'm sorry about my lighting. The sun is coming through. It's a great question. I am right now really enjoying the conversations that I'm having with podcasting and speaking with others that are literally getting paid for podcasting. Now, getting paid to be a podcaster is two ways. There's my own being an independent podcaster, or me connecting with a podcast network. So the fact that a lot of these people now are creating or getting into the podcast space, I'm creating my podcast now and helping others to have something to go to these podcast networks with, whether that's ESPN or some of these other podcast startups that are happening, to deliver that information. So that's my ultimate goal. But in the meantime, the fact that I'm helping, like I'm here now speaking to, is another reason. And then the website that I'm creating, which is called redshirtscholars.com, is just an informational website to give you more tips on networking, internships and jobs, interview tips. So to go along with that. So that's where I'm starting right now. Any more questions?
How'd you start out, and how'd you get into were you always in the media side of? I know you said you did sales first, and did you just jump into media and communication side of it?
Right, I've always did sales and always did a lot of speaking, public speaking, just through the various industries, and it just kind of fit. I just love conversations with people, genuinely. So I was like, okay, how can I help? How can I get into sports was my question, and I need to help somebody. Who can I help? And I thought, okay, people that are in college, I remember being in that position, trying to go get a job. I know I can help them. So I just started there, and I said, okay, let me just start interviewing people. And that's kind of how it started. I want to hear from you. I see people talking, and Andrew, I appreciate your question. You've been asking a lot of questions. I want to hear from everyone that's been on. What are your thoughts? Is this helpful? Emily, is this helpful? Not helpful? Colby's crazy.
No, it's very helpful.
Well, Colby, I'll say, we always hear, because we have probably about 5 or 6 sports professionals on per semester, and we always hear how important it is to network. And you understand that. I think our students understand that. But what we haven't got a good answer on, and why I'm appreciative of you coming on today and actually showing us, is, okay, well, what's that look like? How do you do it? And I think LinkedIn is a powerful tool. If you guys aren't on it, I would definitely recommend getting on it. What about putting out your own content that you talked about? Do you have a recommendation on how often somebody should be posting, or hey, I started a blog or I started a podcast? Do they need to do it every week, every day? What have you found giving you the most traction?
It's a great question. I haven't, for me personally, I do the podcast every single week. And the reason I do the podcast every single week, because given my current life and how it is what I can be consistent at. So what I would say is, do whatever you can be consistent at. If that's every single day, great. If that's once a month, that's okay. But do whatever you can be consistent at. The worst thing you can do is be inconsistent. So whatever you can be consistent at is how much you should do.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I will tell you this, I know everybody so far that I spoke with, and here's the thing. getting into sports is tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's tough. It's a tough industry to get into. If you don't get your job right out of college, or don't get discouraged and think, oh, it's over. I know a lot of people, and this is another unique perspective. They go and work in a different industry. They learn that industry, then they bring it over to sports. Then they're more valuable because they can see both industries. Like, hey, you can do this and increase your value. Adam Silver, NBA commissioner, he was a lawyer first before he became commissioner. So the fact that they hired him, he was a lawyer. So think about that. So a lot of these people, they came from different industries and then got into sports. Look at myself. I came from sales. Now I'm getting into sports. But the fact I've been able to do business development in sales helps me now connecting in sports. So don't think just because you don't get your job right out that it's over. Continue to work that and continue to build skill set. That's what I would tell you. Build skill set and understand the industry that you're in. And I think you'll be well on your way. That's all I have.
All right. Any other questions before we let Colby go?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Colby. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I know I have to get running and you're free to go. We've got I think one of our students is going to talk to us about her experience at the Super Bowl, but I'll follow up with you probably tomorrow through email, but thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Well, thank everyone. And I'll make sure do I need to drop my link in now, or Brandon, I'll just send my link for the podcast to you directly to send out to everyone to make sure.
I tell you what, if you want to send it to me, I'll send it to one of our VPs of PR, and she can email it out. That'll probably be the easiest.
Okay, I'll do that. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Colby.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. And unfortunately, I've got to get running, but you don't need me to run the rest of the meeting. So I'll let Adam take it over from here as far as running it. But I do want to stay on for a couple minutes, and I'd love to hear about, Nikki, your experience down at the Super Bowl. And then two, I just kind of, I look at things and I recognize things, and I recognize Nikki. Anytime there's an opportunity, like she just jumps on it. Any chance that she gets. She's been pretty active, like on LinkedIn and social media. So just maybe her to inspire us today with her journey.
Do you want me to talk now? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So the past 10 days I've been in Tampa, Florida with a program called Living Sport. Last semester Pod mentioned it to us, and I applied the day before the application closed, and originally I didn't get into the program, but then a few students dropped out and I had the opportunity to interview again. I got onto the program, got onto the digital media team for the program as well. So I was creating content before I went, writing blogs, creating templates for social media posts. And then once we got to Tampa, the first 4 days we spent kind of in-house sessions with our different mentors, and we met with representatives from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Rays, the Lightning, and the Yankees. And we got to ask questions, learn about what they do, network with them. And then the last 4 or 5 days of the trip, we got to work the Super Bowl fan experience at the different parks around Tampa. And we were volunteers. We kind of did whatever our area captain said to do. So the first day that I worked at the Super Bowl Museum, which they put up in a big tent that housed the Super Bowl rings, the